On section 3-4, on day 1, we're going to do the quadratic formula. So what's going to happen is I'm going to give you a formula. You're going to plug everything into said formula and then see what you get. That's how it works. So the formula that you have for this is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay. This particular formula, to be honest with you, I know it was in section 4, but if I had my choice, this is the way I do most of them. Okay, and the reason for that is for me, if I'm factoring or if I look at a quadratic, if I don't see the factoring right away, I usually go right to this one. The reason for it is because I'm more of a formula person. I like to just plug my numbers in and see what I get. Okay, that's how I like to do this. Maybe it's the way you like to do it too. This is just a fifth way of doing everything we've been doing so far in chapter 3. Okay? So, this first part today, that's all we're dealing with. Now, just to remind you of where things are located at. This is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So, when you see the a, the b, and the c in the quadratic formula, that's where you find them. The a is the number in front of the x squared, the b is in front of the x, c is in front of the nothing. It's the one that has a constant. The main thing is you got to make it equal to 0 before you can take the numbers out. Okay? Everybody okay with that so far? All right, good. So here's how they're going to look. X squared minus 6x plus 4 equals 0. And we're going to use the quadratic formula. So first thing you have to identify, or first thing you have to do, is it equal to 0? Yeah. If it's not equal to 0, make it. Okay, which means get everything to one side or the other. Does it matter what side you move stuff to? No. Okay. What number is in your A? What number? 1. What number is in your B? Negative 6. And what number is in the C? Fish. Okay. What's in the C? No? All right. Sorry. Bad dad jokes number 1. Okay, what's in the B again? Negative 6. Plus or minus the square root. Negative 6 squared. Minus 4 times what's in the A? And what's in the C? Fish. And then what was in the A one more time? 1. So what I've done is I took all the numbers out of the problem and I inserted them into their spots. And now all this becomes is an order of operations problem. What should come first? You need to simplify this. What do I need to do first? Okay, inside the square root needs to be done first. Okay. Now, one thing that you can do, you can kind of reduce here if you want to at the same time. What's 2 negatives make? Good. So I have a positive 6 plus or minus the square root of. Now, here's where you're going to screw this up. All right. Most people do the first couple times they do this. Did you notice when I inserted my numbers, I always put them in parentheses? The reason for that is because negative 6 squared is different than parentheses negative 6 squared. If you don't have parentheses around it, it would be negative 36, but if you put it in parentheses like it is, then it's going to give you positive 36. This number right here, the first one, should always be a positive. No matter what your number is, when you have b squared, you should get a positive there. A lot of people screw it up because they just put negative 6 and not in parentheses and square it, and the calculator gives you negative 36 because it squared it first and then put the negative on there. That's a problem. You don't have to trust your calculator all the time because that would be wrong in this case. Here's the next part that people screw up. When I multiply the next parts together, that's -4 times 1 times 4. Is that going to be a positive answer or a negative answer? Right. Because, why? Because there's only one negative. What would happen if the back 4 would have been a negative? Then I would have had two negatives that would have made it a positive. So be very careful with the signs. It's not that you can't multiply numbers together, because I know you guys can multiply that together. I know you can do 4 times 4 times 1. I know you can do that without a calculator. You can multiply without a calculator. I know that. Right, Kylie? Okay? So on this particular thing, though, make sure you get the signs right. If you screw up a sign, what happens to your problem? It's wrong. Right? So be very careful. So what is -4 times 1 times 4? Nice. All over. What's 2 times 1? Good. That's awesome. What is 36 minus 16? 20. 6 plus or minus the square root of 20 divided by 2. Now, the square root of 20, does that reduce? That's why we did that at the beginning of chapter 3. 20, I'm going to take my little scratch paper here. 2 goes in there 10 times, 2 goes in there 5 times, and 5 goes in there once. What goes outside? 2. Some of you guys are still messing that up, just so that you know. Real quick question for some of you. What's the square root of 25? 5. Not root 5. Okay? When you square root a perfect square like that, there's no more house. Your house got wiped out. Okay? Now, when you're also reducing this, there's one more thing that you have to do to finish this problem before it's done. I want you to look at the outside pieces only. The inside house number, can't touch it. But the outside pieces, I have a 6, I have a 2, and I have a 2 on the bottom. Can I divide them all by the same number? Mm-hmm. What number can I divide them all by? 2. What's 6 divided by 2? 3. What's 2 divided by 2? 1. Do I need to write a 1 there? No, but if I wanted to, could I? Yeah. Square root of 5 could not be touched. And on the bottom, what's 2 divided by 2? 1. Do I need to write a 1 on the bottom? No, but if I did, would it be wrong? No, you could do that if you want to. But that's my final answer. This is how the whole assignment is going to be today. Okay? You get it, Sierra? Okay, x squared plus 41 equals -8x. First and foremost, is it equal to 0? Now, so what do I got to do? How? Add 8x. X squared plus 8x plus 41 equals 0. Did I do that right, or do I combine it to make like 9x cubed? I did it right. X squared and x do not mix. Okay? Now, what number is in the A? 1. What number is in the B? 8. What number is in the C? 41. Now, here's the other thing about this formula, and this is why I like it so much. Do you remember when we completed the square? The main thing was A had to be 1. Now, I've given you 2 of them that have 1s there. With the quadratic formula, does A have to be 1? No. It can be whatever number you want. And you don't have to divide it by anything. You don't have to worry about that at all. You just have to throw it in and see what you get. Okay? It's kind of like making stew at home. Throw it in and see what you get. All right, so what number is in the B? 8. Plus or minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times, what's in the A? 1. And what's in the C? All over 2 times A. Okay, time to simplify. What's a negative with an 8? Negative 8. Plus or minus the square root of. What's 8 squared, Hunter? Good job, Savannah, for covering for him since he wasn't paying attention. That's okay. Your grades. What's negative 4 times 1 times 41? Negative 164. Over 2. What's 64 minus 164? Negative 100. Now, before I continue, notice how I never said find the real solutions. I just said find the solution, didn't I? So what can I do right now? Take your eye out. Right. If I take my eye out, then what's the square root of 100? 10. So then I have negative 8 plus or minus 10i divided by 2. Now, the numbers, there is no more house. All the numbers are outside. Can they all divide by something? What if they couldn't? Then you're done. Right. If that would have been like a negative 8, positive 10i, or plus or minus 10i, and then a 3 in the bottom, you would have been done. But because they can all reduce, what number goes into each number? What's negative 8 divided by 2? What's plus or minus 10i divided by 2? And what's 2 divided by 2? Do I have to put a 1 on the bottom? No. And done. What do you think of this? They don't change. It's all plug and chug. Okay, one more and then I'll leave you alone. What do you do? Okay, now, some of you could say minus the 30x and minus the 25, and some people would say just add 9x squared over. Which way is right? Both. You'll get the same answer regardless. But if I add 9x squared over, now I deal with putting in positive numbers rather than negative numbers. Would it make a difference though? No. As long as you put the signs in right. Is everybody okay with that first part? Alright, now what's in your B? 30 plus or minus the square root of 30 squared minus 4 times. What's in the A? 9. What's in the C? All over 2 times 9. Now, again, one thing I hope you guys realized when I did this. Did I have to make A1? No. That's the one thing I like about the quadratic formula is I could care less what the numbers are. I'm just going to plug them in and see what I get anyway. So it doesn't have to be A1. You don't have to sit there and think, what times what gives you this, but adds up to be that. You don't have to do any of that. All you got to do is plug it in and see what you get. So negative with a positive 30 on the outside is what? Negative 30. Good. Plus or minus the square root of, what is 30 squared? 900. What is negative 4 times 9 times 25? Negative 900. Ooh. What is 2 times 9? 18. What is 900 minus 900? 0. Does anybody know what the square root of 0 is? 0. Right, 0. So negative 30 plus or minus 0 divided by 18. What's negative 30 plus or minus 0? try that again. Negative 30 plus or minus a 0. Negative 30. What's negative 30 divided by 18? Can that reduce? By what? Somebody said 3, somebody said 2. You're both right. Could go by 6. So negative 5 over 3. This one I only got one answer. Is that a possibility? Yeah, it is. Okay, so at this point so far I had one that had just a square root in it, one that had just one answer like that, and one that had an I. The only one that I didn't do was one that, what if all the square root cancels? What if it would have been like the square root of 25? Then I would have had plus or minus 5 there, right? If that happens, just so that you guys know, I'm just going to make one up for an answer part of it. If I would have had like a negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 25 all over, I don't know, let's say 3, just for whatever. What's the square root of 25? So then I would have negative 4 plus or minus 5 divided by 3. You cannot leave your answer like this. You actually have to, if the square root does go away, you need to actually tell me what the two numbers are. So the first one would be negative 4 plus 5 divided by 3, and negative 4 minus 5 divided by 3. What's negative 4 plus 5? 1 divided by 3? 1/3. What's negative 4 minus 5? Negative 9 divided by 3? Negative 3. So if that happens where the square root goes away, you'd have two distinct answers like that. What do you think of this stuff? Easy compared to what we've been doing? Awesome. So if you go to page 127.